Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into, well, a really fascinating set of ideas we came across. These are some pretty bold, maybe even radical proposals aimed at a cleaner environment, a more sustainable life. Our job today, to unpack these, pull out the key insights, the surprising bits, and give you a quick way to get up to speed on some genuinely out-of-the-box thinking. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. What's interesting is how they really challenge, conventional thinking. They span everything from how we power our homes to how we get around cities. It kind of pushes you to connect dots you wouldn't normally.
Exactly. And the first concept we're diving into is all about, well, serious self-sufficiency. Imagine this. A single generator for both cold and heat that also provides electricity and water, and it's all linked up to a smart battery system.
Right. And this system, according to the source material, it seems to use some advanced thermofluidic principles. So it's generating power and purifying water simultaneously, maybe even recycling energy in the process. And recharging. It's designed to be incredibly versatile. It can recharge from its own process, solar power. You could crank it manually or just plug it into the grid.
Okay, so super flexible.
It's very.
Yeah.
But the real core idea here, the insight the source emphasizes, is linking independence in water, electricity, and agriculture. It frames this as the absolute foundation for a sustainable life, empowering people, communities, right at the source.
That idea of individual or maybe community energy independence is really compelling. Okay, so if that's pillar one, the next idea tackles how we move around collectively. And it's pretty radical. It proposes, for companies like Uber perhaps, electric floating vehicles.
Floating vehicles. The design sounds quite ingenious. It mentions wheels that float, maybe using buoyant materials, or perhaps they're inflatable. Allows them to go from road to water. And they also have pedals for backup, presumably.
Pedals. Okay, so why? What's the thinking?
Well, the rationale given is, first, preventing damage from heavy rain or floods, which seems increasingly relevant, and second, crucially, saving lives during those kinds of extreme weather events. So it's not just tech for tech's sake. It's about designing for resilience, climate resilience.
And making them accessible, because that sounds expensive.
Right, they address that. The proposal includes this circular economy approach. They suggest buying up old combustion engine cars, maybe through a financing company, then recycling them, harvesting materials, and using the value from those recycled materials to bring down the cost, the installment cost of these new floating vehicles, making it easier for working people to get one, maybe through a lease-to-own setup.
Interesting. So it helps fund the transition itself.
Exactly. It aims for ease of transport, resilience, and a faster, more equitable shift. It really makes you think about integrating economics with environmental solutions.
Okay, so from infrastructure to something much more personal, habits and health. This next idea tackles, well, a huge one, smoking and vaping. The proposed replacement is surprisingly simple sounding, an air-flavored tube.
Yeah, an air-flavored tube. The concept here is to fulfill all the habit parts of smoking. The hand-to-mouth action, the oral fixation, that feeling of inhaling and exhaling, maybe even some anxiety release. But it does all this with just air. Flavored air.
So no smoke, no vapor.
None. The source does mention needing strong flavors, like maybe adding mint to kind of mimic the sensation of smoke flow in the throat. But the key insight, I think, is how it targets the habit loop itself. It suggests that maybe the best way to change widespread behavior isn't always forcing complete stopping, but offering a harmless substitute, something that satisfies that underlying psychological need.
And the benefits they list are pretty significant. No battery needed, which avoids those safety concerns in e-waste, makes it cheaper, potentially profitable, and, well, usable anywhere since there's no smoke. The goal is apparently to get it into every pharmacy, every supermarket.
That widespread availability would be crucial, wouldn't it? Making it easy to switch, offering that psychological comfort, but with basically zero environmental or health impact compared to smoking.
Okay, one last proposal, and this one shifts to architecture. Building design. It's quite specific. Constructing buildings that integrate swimming pools as a standard feature.
Yes, and very specifically, the design calls for 2 private pools per building, one designated for women, one for men. The stated reasons are pretty straightforward. Pleasure, boosting quality of life, health benefits.
Seems simple enough, but is there more to it?
Well, interestingly, the source material also mentions considering sea level in this design, which implies perhaps a more forward-thinking aspect, maybe anticipating future climate adaptations. It points towards integrating wellness and maybe even climate readiness right into our basic living spaces.
Wow. Okay, so from personal energy and water to floating cars, air tubes instead of cigarettes, and pools and buildings, these ideas are certainly diverse and Ambitious.
They really are. And maybe that's the final thought for you, the listener, to consider. When you hear these varied, sometimes almost jarring solutions, what connections can you start to draw between things that seem separate, like personal habits, city infrastructure, energy systems? How might they link up in building a future that's both clean and resilient? Something to think about.